Hello and welcome. This is Just Saying, episode 30. 30 episodes in the big 3-0. So, and as per usual, as per usual, Bromeo and Sean, how's it, kids?
Hey,
Hello.
how's it going?
As always, fabulous. Well, that's not entirely true. So I have to start off by saying I got to thank Bromeo, who put out a tweet, and we're going to get to that because by the end of the weekend, I was ready to make emotional bad decisions.
I was about to ask the police to go and do a wellness check by your house.
I mean, you weren't here last week, Bromeo. I was stressed.
But
Very uncharacteristic.
So, well, you'll see from the title of the episode tonight, it's Reasons to be Cheerful. And it is very easy, as Bromeo pointed out in his tweet earlier today, when it comes to SSA Rocket League, there are very good and very easy reasons to feel bad about everything. But we are going to take some time to find all the things we should be feeling good about it. And as we get into this, I'll say hello to those who are here. Tubbsy, Fort Hilux, Vinco, Mercy. Hello, Mercy. Now, Mercy, remember that name. You'll be hearing much more of that name as time goes on. Syntax, how's it? Tubbsy, if I didn't mention you, hello. Gents, what I thought we would do is we have to spend a few minutes, like a brief period, lamenting all the good and easy reasons to feel cuck about things, get it out of our system, and then we turn to positivity. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
It's fair enough. I can do that.
Excellent. So, and then chat, you have to think of reasons. Why should we be optimistic? What are the reasons to be cheerful? And we'd love to hear from you and anything you have to say about it. What are you liking about SSA Rocket League? What do you see about the future? And we'll raise those and talk about those as we go. Hello, Hypersonic. Hello, Mercury. So reasons to feel cuck. Well, what are the bad reasons or the not so lack of things? We've just come out of RLCS Open number 5, Rally Open number 5. And from an SSA perspective, well, it started well. Of the top 16, we had, I'm trying to remember the number now. Was it 6 out of 16?
We had a good amount. Let's just think about them quickly. Or
While
even
he searches
better, just pull up the Liquipedia.
Let's think about them quickly. Give me 2 seconds.
We had an adequate representation of SSA teams in the top 16 going into GSL on Friday night. And Bromeo's gonna take care of our research portion.
I'm getting the information. There. Okay, so into the top 16. There was Cosmico. There was
P&J,
obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Limitless,
mm-hmm.
Relentless.
We can count Cristobal.
They count for this regional and this regional only. Cristobal Cologne.
Yep, that's 5. And then Genesix. That's 6. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, so 6 of 16, which is not great, but going into the top 8, 4 of those made it through into the top 8. So we were 50% represented going into the top 8 on Saturday. So that was pretty good. And then Cosmico had a banger of a match against Pomino's Dietza. They gave us all heart attacks because they won their first 2 games like bang, bang. Or was it the other way around? No, they lost their first 2 games, right?
Oh,
yes,
now
they
you're
lost.
Okay.
No, they lost their
Yeah.
opening 2 games, so they gave us a huge heart attack. Then they won 3 on the trot, and we're like, okay, we're good. But then they lost, so it was 3-all going into a game 7. But then they took care of business and went through. Pony no Jutsu, who's going to feature heavily in our good news segment, they were eliminated on Saturday, unfortunately, but did incredibly well to get that far. Limitless, then Cristobal lost to Limitless, but man, oh man, it was a proper match. That Guns coming close to beating Limitless, 2 regionals on the trot on 2 different rosters, which would have been a huge talking point of its own. And in the bad news segment, was Genesix not making it through. They lost in round 5 of Swiss. We could have had 5 of the top 8 with SSA representation. So that was not so lacquer. So going into Sunday, 3 of the top 6 were SSA: Cristobal, Limitless, and Cosmico. Cosmico lost. The big grudge match, Cosmico and Cristobal, that went to a game 7. That was proper tight, proper tense, but Cristobal taking that. Limitless.
Limitless went down to 77 blocks.
Correct.
In the lower semis,
losing for the first time ever to 77 blocks. That went to game 7. Game 7 overtime, right? Yeah, that was a game 7 overtime, and losing there. So for the first time ever, we had two EU teams contesting the final twice in a row, which was pretty hectic. 77 blocks, and of course Foot Esport. So that was fairly miserable. It was not lacquer to be there, not lacquer to experience. But there we go. So from that perspective, at the very, very top, like top 4, things are rough for SSA. And now we can turn our attention to hold on. We have to bring up Ford Hilux, who says so Bromeo is lying. He's silver 2. Actually, one of the eyes fell off his T-shirt, so he's actually silver 3.
It's a metaphor. It is silver 3, but I fell off. So
yeah, just like the extra eye on his T-shirt, he fell off.
But yeah,
hypersonic thing.
What's that?
Epic needs. Oh, it's a complete change of subject. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no.
Epic needs to put creative mode onto all platforms so players can make their own. Okay, yeah, well, that's a whole different kettle of bananas. We'll get there eventually, I suppose.
It exists, but I don't think it's on Epic, to be fair. I mean, Lethemir has been making creative maps for who knows how long now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Dap says he wants to retire. Well, he said that immediately after the previous regional as well. So that's not unexpected. And let's talk about this for a moment. I do feel like we are entering a new era, regardless of what happens next season. And at headlining the top of that list is Limitless, who have been at the forefront. Let's say Snowy and To Die For have been at the forefront of SSA Rocket League for a long time. And starting with last season and the first wave of invasions, that was fought off, but I'm not sure what's going on. They have definitely fallen off. Something has gone on in that roster, and I do feel like we're at the end of an era there, and I fully expect to see changes in that roster in some form or another. I mean, there are big questions. Do Limitless stay? Does the org stay? What happens to that roster? And then people like Daps, are they going to continue? I mean, we finally saw the full and final retirement of Mr. Lowe, who threatened for 2 or 3 seasons and then has not featured at all. So I do think we are going to see those waves of retirement. And with regard to DApps in particular, I mean, Mega Boom has said Genesix as an org is disbanding, so they won't be involved. So yeah, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. It does feel like there is going to be a shift after this season.
I'm not surprised if there is. I would expect them to. It has been a changing of the order. It has been a very, very tricky time, especially for the established pros. And I say established, meaning the people who made like top 4 quite regularly. And well, the reason why I say that is when I first started watching RLCS and the pros go at it, it was just Pirates and Bravado.
Yes.
It was either one or the other, but most of the time it was Limitless, and occasionally Bravado would take a game off them. So from that foundation, not too much has actually changed, except Limitless is not at the top. There were a couple of teams who contested for top 4, but if you were 3 or 4, if you're an Apex or something of that ilk, chances are you'd survive a season and then split up and then do something, bring in a new roster who did perform, so on and so forth. So I'd like to think that so much has changed, but so little has changed. It's just we're now seeing somebody who we don't like at the top. And that's pretty much, it. For the rest of the players, it's, still pretty tough going to get into the top 12. But it's still not impossible. There are a couple of meme teams gatekeeping now, some of the lower rank guys. But overall, it's become a whole lot more competitive, and I I I see that as a double-edged sword. It has become a lot more competitive. It has been a lot more hard fought. I said in my tweet, this has been the closest top 8 finish ever. There were 3 Game 7 overtimes, not excluding the final, and I think that just saying that alone is, reason to be happy about it. And I know that there's going to be a lot of, especially the upper echelon players, they're not going to be happy because they're not getting the same results. They're not getting the same money. They're not getting the same satisfaction as they were from an RLCS tournament that would have been 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So look, I do expect a couple changes. I expect Limitless to do something because, like you said, it's not just the fact that Foot were good. I feel like they're Limitless do not look like their imperious self of old, and that's not even bringing in Foot Esports into the equation. It's just by their own standards.
Yes.
I'm sure they won't be happy. Cosmico, I really hope they give it more time because they're one of the rosters who have really come up and started pressing, to where they should be at. And a couple of the other teams, I hope. I know we're going to speak about it just now about where Guns is landing up, but a PNJ as well. I really hope to see them in top 8 again. And I hope to see some of the top 16, the Genesixes, a couple of other guys just start featuring more in the top 8. And that's what I'm trying to say is like not too much has actually changed, except there's a couple of rosters who are not from here, and that's about it.
Okay, well there we go. That's we've covered the bad news portion, and what that means is that this region is not represented at Major. It's not represented at Worlds. So there we go. Let's make our peace with that. Get to acceptance as quick as possible, and then move forward. So let's talk about our reasons to be cheerful. And Bromeo, since you started this.
The split is over. That's the reason.
Well, it's not. It's not. We have one more regional to suffer through.
Our split is over.
Yeah, that is true. And well, yeah. So so my first reason to be cheerful is there's only one more broadcast to suckle through, and then the season will be over and we can start looking forward. So let's kick it off, Bromeo. Reasons to be cheerful, Bromeo.
There's plenty. There's plenty. I'll start with the pro scene and what we saw on the weekend. That's what I listed in my tweet, and I'll expand from there.
Mm.
Um, I think we saw a season best from Guns. Guns was absolutely phenomenal, and I don't like giving Guns praise because I feel like everybody does, and that's part of the problem. But he is really, really good, and he played so well this weekend. And seeing him almost dismantle Limitless and Cosmico in the same breath was it was great to see. And I feel like that sort of competition, that sort of rivalry is exactly what Rocket League in SSA needs. We
Mm.
need those grudge matches. We need something to watch for. And for so long, it's always been a one horse race. And so not knowing who was going to take any of these was so good to see. I love that 77 blocks came out of nowhere.
Yes.
Absolute nowhere.
Mm.
Nobody gave them a chance
Mm.
because they're not traditionally very good.
Oh,
They
that
finished.
was our only desk sweep on the weekend.
Yep.
Everybody from
They
chat to casters, everybody was like, Limitless is going to beat 77 blocks.
yeah, their best finish was a top 4 last season and nothing better yet. So the fact that they came in barnstormed, absolutely blitzed everybody, is not an indictment on anybody but the teams that got blitzed
Mm.
because they were just playing well. And because
Mm.
we've dispatched them in the past, that was on them. So I've seen so much like Teshao making top 8.
Mm.
So great. I loved seeing it, and the fact that he did it in one of the most contested top 8s that we've ever seen makes it even more powerful. And I don't think that's the last time we're gonna see him. So that for
Mm.
me is huge.
Mm.
Um, I loved that To Die For was more present this last weekend. They didn't get the results they needed, but I could see that To Die For was forcing his way into the game. He's been very subdued. Maybe that was just his role. I know nothing. I'm a silver 3. But
Number two.
watching him play and seeing some of the skill shots he was making, that for me was incredible because it's what
Like
I looked at when I
his
started
old self was
watching him.
starting to come through again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna try this even though I shouldn't
That
because I can.
like creativity that we've known him to
Yeah.
have, that he used to have in the beginning, was starting to shine through a little
Mm.
bit. And I suppose it was a little bit
So
of a silver
yeah.
lining.
No, and for me, because it's generally Snowy and Sweaty who are the aggressors, and To Die For is generally a passive third, playing it over the top or something like that. But just seeing him so close to the front and scoring a couple of nutty goals, I think that's what we needed to see. And aside from that, there have been so many good performances from so many players, not just this split, but throughout the season, that is definitely worth a reason to be positive. It is all doom and gloom because, a European team took the lion's share of the prize money, but let's not forget that there has been massive improvements from everybody else.
Mm.
And Graybid, you were talking about a broadcast and that you only have to sickle through one more. But this is the first, I think this is the first complete season that, that we've had a fully backed Psionics Blast broadcast.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Did we have it last? I think we had it. I think it's our
I think we
second
had it
season.
halfway through. I'm pretty sure we only got it halfway through.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct because
Yeah.
Blast came on board at the very start of the season and there wasn't enough time, so it was all. So yeah, we freebied our way through the first split. Yes,
And like, let it be known, I think outside of NA and EU were the only funded broadcast. Was that?
that I don't know. I know there were issues in OCE, there were issues in APAC, and I see APAC were back on the official Rocket League APAC Twitch channel, so I don't know if that means there was some funding for that, but there were definitely issues for the first split.
And just so it is known that this is the first time we've been able to front a funded broadcast that wasn't done in the out of somebody's boot in somebody's basement. This was the first time it was put together by production, by talent, and For a region as small as ours, that is massive because it means that we get to put on a broadcast for all of you and we get to be proud of it. Not that we haven't been proud of it in the past, but now it is legitimately something we can own, and it is something that Blast recognizes.
Mm,
And that for me is massive
mm.
because it puts us on such a good platform for growth. It means that we can grow our region. It means that all of these, broadcasts we put out, it was on Supersport this weekend.
Yeah. That's actually
I
and that I don't think that doesn't exist anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
That's unique to SSA. I mean, broadcast to the entirety of Africa. It's unbelievable.
So if we can keep that up, if we can have a Supersport channel every time RLCS goes live, you will see an increase in players. You will see just how exciting this can be as it gains support. I think that all of the blocks are in place for something cool. This is not a region in decline. It is a region that is growing at school level, at professional level. And I have never, been more excited because there's so much stuff going on that I can't keep track of it all. And that's why we need people like Yuckles to stream high school games.
Mm,
And why we need so many different faces in the scene, because it's literally one of the only esports in this country that's getting full funding. It is getting a funded broadcast,
mm,
and it is getting supported at a television level,
mm,
and it's getting supported at school level. So yes, we'll cry because yes, a European team took some prize money, but we will not sit and think for a second of how good this really is right now.
mm.
And that for me is the big thing.
I, it is. It is. I have a battle with myself every day about this, and have to keep reminding myself that there was a great tweet, and it stuck with me. It was halfway through last season when Mr. Lowe, before he became a bit more bitter about it all, he tweeted out and said that for years South Africans were desperate for this level of competition, and now we're bitching that it's here. And it was very true, because I know without a shadow of a doubt, and I've raised this point before. So at the risk of broken recording it, in 2019, when I first got involved with the community, and it was tiny, and there was Mr. Lowe, not Mr. Lowe, Skill Steel, traveling to a land with his PC on his lap on an aeroplane. If you had said to the competitive community at that time, say, guys, we're going to let you compete in RLCS, but you'll have to compete with people from EU, but they will play on your servers with high ping, they would have grabbed it instantly without a second thought. The reason, there are a number of reasons, and I don't want to make it seem like it's totally okay that we can just be overrun, but to have, if we had started with that, it would have been great. The fact that we had 2 seasons without that, and then suddenly it changed, and we were given there was no sort of runway into it. It was just like, boom, here it is. We're starting in 2 weeks. Good luck. So we still haven't sort of completely gotten over that shock. So yes, so I've made that point, and we can move forward. Next. Do you have others on your list, Bromeo? And Sean, I hope you've got a list, because I'm coming to you eventually.
Look,
I'm just listening to Bromeo waffle. I'm not gonna lie.
I've got so many reasons to be excited about Rocket League, and because I umbrella listed a whole bunch of things that we haven't delved into. Like high school Rocket League is getting massive. There's 2 or 3 physical lands this year, and I've already been to one of them, and I was there with Greybeard, and that was fantastic.
Mm,
And I feel like it's so easy to get caught up at the top in the misery, that we don't appreciate what Rocket League is as a whole, which is a community
mm,
exercise, which everybody who's watching this podcast has decided to be part of a community, and they've chosen Rocket League to be the thing. And there is so much to talk about. I mean, it would have been such an issue if you chose something like Dota and you had a dead Facebook page, and that's pretty much the sum of it. And that for me is the biggest point of differentiation, is that every single weekend there's something happen. Every single week there's a blimming Rocket League podcast that you get to watch because you know there's enough people in the community to justify it somewhat. And if that's not a sign of things getting better, growing,
Mm.
I can't keep pointing them out enough. Is there's just so much.
There are and there's a lot more that we as a community can do and bring to this. And sometimes we spend a lot of time getting in our own way. But I speak under correction. But as far as I know, in terms of esports for this region, in terms of publisher support, we are either the only or one of very, very few that has publisher support for the esport, and which has a now very, very difficult path, but a path to world championships. I know who were the guys that we battled with last year for that ACGL? Was it Call of Duty?
Yeah.
Call of Duty, those guys cry because they get zero support. There is nothing for them. They survive on the fumes of their own community activity and whatever ACGL can give them. Say what?
The salt that they create is what powers them.
So we have that publisher support, which is huge. It's massive. All right. Well, while you, yeah, of course you can.
Zany just brought up something, and it made me think now.
Yeah.
It's kind of changed my perspective on it a little bit. He says, I mean, since I joined when the region was open, it seems natural. It's so competitive, and it pushes me to always be grinding to make it to the top. So, are we sometimes, when we're mostly moaning about the whole EU thing, are we thinking more in the same perspective of the old dogs in the region, or are we maybe not considering the new talent that have come to the new SSA players or Reunion or North African, whoever within the SSA umbrella that have come now into RLCS during this whole EU takeover thing? What's their perspective on this whole thing? Is it a lot more positive than we see it because this is something normal to them now?
I think that segues very nicely into one of my reasons for positivity is the number of very young players who are grinding this game. We've mentioned T-Shao already. There's Eagle, there's Willant out of Reunion, and Reunion is a huge reason to be positive, and I want to highlight them in a few minutes. And then Zany, who's in chat right now, he's grinding the game. I mean, he's like just wanting to be so badly to be better and to improve himself. Devour, Ravi, there are others that are escaping my mind at the moment, but there is a number of these youngsters who are coming up and who are grinding. So whereas there's a lot of saltiness with the old dogs at the top, the Snowy, Sweaty, To Die For, Worty, and others. But and they've got their own reasons to be salty about it, and I do think they suck a lot of the oxygen in the conversation about it, whereas it absolutely should be high school and on up. And the fact that people like T-Shao, I mean, I saw T-Shaw's Twitter bios already got, top 8 in there, and it means something to them, and it's important, and they are grinding for it. So, who's PogChamp? Never heard of PogChamp. But someone said Skill Steal. Yeah, we should mention Skill Steal, up and coming grinder. But but actually, Skill Steal, he is a great reason because
Yeah.
he wants to keep going to see how long an old uncle can keep grinding in the game. But at the same time, he is mentoring and bringing up the youngsters of Ravi and Devour. I mean, that is huge and really, really important. So there we go. That's a reason. The number of people sort of on the outskirts, on the, outside looking in, but right at the cusp of coming into the bigger time and spending more time at the top. That gives me a lot of hope.
I mean, I've also got something big I want to bring up, but Shauna, if you've got anything, let me know because this is going to be a whole separate spiel.
I mean, it's probably a regurgitated thing as a positive, I would say, but at least we still have RLCS in the region.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's true. At least we got RLCS.
Saying, guys.
most
It's
certainly.
sure, it's not as ideal as we would have liked it, but who gives a shit? It's still here, and we still can make money if you're good enough to get there.
Yep. And it leads me into, quite nicely into what I wanted to bring up. And I'm not sure if you guys brought this up last week. And by the sounds of it, Greybeard was being angry. So he might not have. But I do want to chat about RSC
Yes.
and why it's such a good thing right now because I'm so excited for RSC, which is coming very, very soon, by the way, chat. So make sure that you start getting your games in because you need at least 100 games from the last 2 seasons to be able to play. And don't say I didn't warn you. So
Actually, I should
when
stop playing games.
yeah, no, I should start playing games as well if I want to play. But
Oh,
my point, yeah.
yeah. Sorry, you got Kerika very excited. Suddenly, Kerika popped in. RSC, go on, go on.
So yeah, no, why not? Why not?
Mm.
Signups are going to open in the first week of next month. RSC 4, it's on its way, and yeah, we are now working in earnest towards it. We've got the team, we got the A team together. We've had the conversations. We're getting the broadcast set up, and now it's just time to start planning it and punting it. It's going to be just as big, if not bigger, with a few
Bigger.
changes, but yet to be determined. And we'll drip feed those as they become finalized.
We'll
But
probably all be greybeards by the end of the season. But
yeah, no. And the thing that I'm excited most about RSC is that it's literally a physical way that you can see how good somebody has gotten because there is now history.
Mm.
If you played an RSC last season and then you play again this time, you've got a whole year in which you have played this game and gotten better. And I saw Ford Hilux in chat. He was one of the few who started in Prospect in season 1. He went to Rival in season 2, and he was in Elite in season 3. And if he wasn't putting a shrimp on a barbie in Australia or wherever the hell he is, then I have no doubt that he would probably be pushing for Master this season. And for me, that progression to see some of the faces becoming really, really good at the game, that's where it starts.
Mm.
You start playing with a couple of guys, realizing, damn, I could actually make something of this. And then you see players having absolute breakout seasons like Mnoto on, I think it was your franchise, Sean.
no, he wasn't in
Um,
my franchise.
was he not?
He was an XP.
All right, there we go. Yes. And it was absolutely fantastic to see him shine because he was placed in a competitive environment and he got so incredibly good, so incredibly fast. And that's what I want RSC to be, is a
Still
place where
couldn't
you
beat my
realize,
team.
yeah, it's a place where you can realize that there's more to this game and then there's a funnel upwards because you're playing alongside people who can tell you, who can show you, who can give you tips on how to get better. And that's why I always punt, some of the pros just kicking back and relaxing in RSC for a bit because there's so many players who give a shit about what you think
Mm.
about the game, about how they play, about the scene, everything, because your opinion carries weight. Like Greybeard says, stream. I know streaming is a big issue and it's tedious and it's not something I would do by myself. So I completely get it. But get in conversations with people who you wouldn't normally play with and start with RSC because it's not a very high commitment. It's one game a week, but you get to play alongside some really cool chaps and inspire them to become you a year from now, 2 years
Mm,
from now. And it's the easiest way to give back. And hell, you can actually win some prize money while you're at it.
mm,
And that for me is why I'll always be the biggest spokesperson for RSC, is because it gives you a reason to keep pushing upwards. Six
mm.
mans aside or whatever, it's a nice way to see where you're at before you reach the big leagues.
I second that. I was very surprised when we brought RSC here, how quickly, how eagerly it was. People. It was clearly a need to have this community league, and it's gotten bigger in season 2 and in season 3 and season 4. I think it will be even bigger than that. And it is the ultimate in community where the very top mingle and mix with those who are lower down. It's so incredibly important. And yeah, as a reason to be optimistic and excited, RSC is going to be a banger this year and incredibly important. So right behind you on that. Reunion Island. Reunion Island is one of my reasons to be cheerful and to be excited. Reunion Island, none of us knew it existed until RLCS arrived. And I remember that first season, 21-22 season of RLCS. There were a bunch of, South Africa's Rocket League community was small enough that you knew everybody who played. Everything from sort of Champ 1 up, you knew all the players. And all these players signed up that nobody knew. It's like, who are these guys? Oh, they're from Reunion. What the hell is Reunion? And then you find it's like, okay, you look at a map of Africa, look to the right, you'll see a big island. That's Madagascar. And then to the right of that, you'll see a tiny, tiny pin drop. That's Mauritius. Now look for the even smaller little dot in the ocean. That's not a fleck of dust on your screen. That's Reunion Island. 800,000 people, and all these guys. So they've been around from the beginning, and they are French by nature, and there've been a few heroes, and right up among them is Wilu. He has been flying the flag for Reunion Island for so long, and now we see the potential. Tisha, Willant, Eagle, Heatsy. There are a few who I think are on the cusp of breaking through and will become heroes of the scene. And in particular, Pony no Jutsu, who've been in and around and trying to get a roster together, trying to be there. Plisfos, Grow Sensei, out on Reunion Island. They got their top 8 this weekend. And there are 2 reasons I'm excited about that. One is because we have Reunion players breaking through and rising to the top, and I can't wait to see more of that. But also the potential of what a 2/3 roster can be. Because it's 2 Reunion players in Eagle and Tishao, and then Reshi is a 2.3K nutty freestyler out of France, and it's just added something magical to that roster, and I am so behind that, and the potential of doing that. 2 solid SSA players finding someone out of EU who can yank them forward, yank them upward, and so that is a reason for me. So the Reunion Island as a whole, and Pony no Jutsu in particular, and then 2/3 rosters. And there should be a lot more of that, of SSA players got to start getting their network out there, start connecting up with EU players. And, whether you team up with them or not, at least be connected and integrate with them and learn and get better in that way.
I completely agree, and I remember when Shadowhunter was brought to SSA by Apex, and that created such a stir because now this EU players come to South African shores to play
Wait,
in our
he's South African though.
Yeah, no. But he was playing out of overseas.
Yeah, I
Remember?
remember that. He's still
Yeah.
South African. He's not
I mean, thank
EU.
you for the. Not the point.
He's not EU. Don't rope him in with that
But anyway,
previous word trash.
Yep.
imported him to buff up the Apex roster. I can't remember how well it worked. I don't think it changed the world, but
Mm,
I remember the storylines behind it, and I loved that. I love being able to change something with as little direct input as possible. And I think that, the two-thirds rule, we've spoken about it ad nauseum for the longest of times, but what's happening with Pony no Jitsu, what happened back then with Apex, it all points towards bringing a dynamic that you have not experienced so far in your competitive environment. And that is why I loved seeing Cristobal over the weekend, even though that's only 1/3, but it shows what Guns can do on a different team. That's, a team that he hasn't played for the 10th time. And it just shows what is possible with some of the talent in our scene. It's not that our boys aren't good enough. It's just that they haven't been on a good enough team. They haven't been, subjected to good enough competition. And I feel like that is the differentiator, and that is what all of this is offering us, is that we get to sit in these times and not have to, balance of what's allowed and what isn't, but what is right now and what we can do. And Guns joining that team with Pingu and Yova. Fantastic. I love to see it. And I wish we could see more of it because I feel like this is what the region needs. It's
mm,
great to watch.
mm,
And I feel like so many players are learning different things right now. They are learning, different styles of play because as somebody who looks at the numbers, looks at the stats during RLCS time, teams are playing such a different brand of Rocket League. When I first started watching RLCS, everybody played relatively similarly because it's how Limitless played.
mm.
And they played the 50, they took the contact, they tried to force the mistake, you know, basics, but done well. And now, in our second season of open borders, there are so many clearly different teams and the way that they play. You had 77 Box and Labosh playing it wide, playing it fast, playing it aggressively. You had Cristobal Colon this
Yeah.
weekend. Columbus, yep. Colon over this weekend, and they played a high pressure game,
Yes.
like incredibly high pressure. And just seeing the way that there's so many styles to Rocket League that us as the casual viewer were never exposed to unless you're watching RLCS NA or EU week in, week out. And now you get to see it right here. And I can see the progression
Mm.
of some of these players picking up these play styles. And that for me is exciting.
Sorry, the long silence is me
Contemplating.
contemplating and pondering all of this. And I think um well, let me bring in Pyro. Pyro put a message in our broadcast Discord group with regard to this, and he says, okay, I'm just going to read what he says. You could also give it the 10,000-foot view, where if you looked at RLCS SSA from 2021 to 2025 and the import crisis in 2024, we could easily see a timeline where local professionals are wiped out completely, just given the overwhelming advantage of imports coming in. Instead, here we are at the end of 25 season with some of the most competitive main event matches involving the locals, further defining SSA as a region of resiliency and overcoming challenges. Well said, Pyroj.
Yeah, you said it a
And
lot better than I could.
so yeah, and I'm looking at. Oh, and another highlight, by the way, which we haven't touched on, is Triple B. Triple B, which is Bigfoot, Blade, and Breezy, who made top 8. And they had a great run. And these are players, a mixture of players who've been around a while. I think Blade, from what I recall, definitely made RLCS as part of Unity back in the day.
Yeah, he was bro Unity for the longest of times.
Yeah. And so he kind of been there and thereabouts. Bigfoot, who I'm pretty sure has made a main event. I don't think in the open borders era, but prior to that, I get a feeling he was on some team that made a main event. But Breezy, definitely a debutant, and they played incredibly well. And I was so happy for Blade, because I mean he's put in time and he's been there and thereabouts and just seemed to fall short all the time. But then making top 8, what a huge move for them. So that was really, really cool. Oh, hold on. Oh, yeah, there we go. Dap says Bigfoot made a main event with Daps and Declan once. So there you go. So I was pretty sure he had made a main event. So there we go.
Well, Breezy's the only one without a Wikipedia page. So that's
but he's working on
it. But yeah, Breezy, if you're watching it, just get good. Only the real G's have Wikipedia pages.
Even Romeo has a Wikipedia page.
Yeah, even me, even
Silver
and we're speaking about we spoke about Guns. We didn't mention what's happening with Guns. So Guns who generally has a philosophy of never play with the same team twice. He has the same approach as very rich people to socks. You wear them once and then they're done. And I hope, because we've spoken how good Guns is, and my hope for him next season is he can find an org and a roster he can settle into to really develop and grow with a team. But that notwithstanding, Death Cloud Esport have brought Guns in for the final regional. My question when I heard about that, I was like, well, who do you kick off?
It's like the village bicycle now, isn't it?
Who do you kick from Death Cloud? Because Death Cloud being Jeff, Struddick, and Nitro. And they've chosen to replace Jeff, which surprised me, but then honestly, any of that roster would have surprised me. So Guns will be competing with Death Cloud Esport for the final regional, and Jeff is joining Unity, and I think that's so they can stop bringing in Lackstar, who's supposed to be the coach, and he keeps being pressed into duty. So Jeff will be doing duty with the Unity roster for the final.
I'm pretty excited for that. I think Death Cloud, benefits from having Guns on the roster. I'm a little bit sad that Crucible Colon couldn't have made a bigger run of that trio, because they played incredibly well this last weekend. And I know it's, rumor on the street is just because, the Spaniards wanted to, be together and speak their language. But Guns speaks Rocket League, and you saw it over the weekend. He almost tackled the entire of SSA on that roster, and it's imperious Guns, and I haven't seen that from him in a while. And he was playing with all of the confidence and none of the baggage that comes with that.
Yes,
and I would have loved to see another split with him and Crucible Colon. I know it's too late now, but there was so much promise there.
And while we're talking about Guns, I got to give a shout out. He had a face cam on RLCS playoff weekend. Well done, Guns. Oh my word! You wouldn't think we'd have to work so hard to get face cams, but that was very cool to see that. So well done to him. All right, what else? What else have we got, gentlemen? Why are we happy? Why are we excited? Or have we exhausted our bag of excitement?
I've exhausted mine.
There's always so much to be excited for. We've already mentioned RLCS, we've mentioned High School Rocket League, we've mentioned RSC.
Hold on. Let's cycle back for a moment just to High School Rocket League, because that is I love what Jakkels is doing, and I co-cast a game with him, a high school game in the middle of last week, and it's small. He's out there, he's trying, and he's got a pretty good looking stream, and I can see this thing growing, and I. I've got to get it right in my head on how we properly support that, because as much as we delve, we can spend easily an hour on this podcast delving into the ins and outs of an RLCS weekend.
I've got an idea.
Yes.
I've got an idea. We should ask to show some of his clips on the show, like a highlights reel. Just for instead of having a correspondent tell us about what happened in high school Rocket League, we now have Jakkels busy streaming these games every week. He can clip a couple of them and send us some of the best moments for you guys to see. And
Not just Jakkels, it's Muzz as well. He's doing
no, for sure. And if Jakkels ever asked me, I'd be in as well, because that's something I would love to see more of. And I think that's something that SSA needs, is basically a mirror to show yourself exactly what Rocket League and SSA is. And it's so much bigger than you think it is, because it's broader than this little community that you experience week in, week out. It's just, there's so much going on, and there's so many different communities that aren't based on Discord, that, high schools all over the place. And I feel like if we even just showcased a little of it every week, just, some good players, mention it on this podcast, I think that would be really, really cool.
I second that.
Apparently,
And
sorry, Jakkels just mentioned that next week, Wednesday, there's a schools game on Supersport.
That's right. He's told me about it. And I think Bromeo, I don't know if Jakkels reached out to you, but because I think that was the plan, to go and to cast that on Supersport Schools, or whatever that thing is.
No, he doesn't like me that much, apparently. Didn't ask me at all.
All right. Well, that's definitely going to be streamed, definitely going to be cast. But yes, when you say being mentioned on here, as much as we delve into the various teams and the rosters and the whatever for RLCS, if we huge shout out to VS and to ACGL, who have a firm interest in schools and are at least pushing it. The downside is that it doesn't get enough exposure. Certainly not like mainstream RLCS does, and so on, and that's something I'd like to evolve and change. But high school Rocket League is without doubt growing, and there are some heroes. I keep mentioning Jakkels, and he's one of them who's has such a deep interest in it, not just for the school he represents, which is PRG, but for the scene in general. So yes, I just wanted to make sure we didn't gloss over that too quickly. And then moving on to something Lankai said. Now I've got to scroll back and find it. Lankai says there's a new West African Esport League, which is going to take place in the summer. And Lankai is going to be the coach for all the teams, and he's going to work on the stream. He's going to be a busy boy, is Lankai, over the summer. But that sounds awesome, Lankai. What titles? I'm assuming Rocket League is the main one. But are you coaching other titles, or give us a bit more info on if it Rocket League amongst many titles, or what?
So Lankai on the podcast next week, yes.
I've been meaning to get him on. I was supposed to have him on, and it was the week that we didn't have a show, because he became the first West African SSL, which was
our next graphic for RSC as well, because he did the previous one.
I mean, Lankai's in chat now. Lankai, you joining us next week, bro?
Lankai would be here in a minute. It's entirely been my bad that he's not on here. So yes, we will definitely get Lankai on here. So that West African Esport League it's Rocket League. That it is a Rocket League thing. That is huge. Well, you definitely got to come on and talk about that. And
So crazy. Can't he come and just run us through like what's going on on those
Yeah, like
parts?
why
in
are we not
regards to-
funding this? Why are we not
Yeah.
Like, how do we not know? Because he's saying there's a few esport orgs in Ghana.
Yeah,
I didn't know
I want to see this. Please,
Yeah.
let's do this.
Where are these esport orgs?
Reasons to
Ghana.
be cheerful. Part West Africa.
Yeah.
That's
We're in
brilliant.
South
Okay.
Africa. It's boring now.
We'll get Lankai on here. All right, and then we're now so we're coming to the end of the RLCS season and into the long winter that is always that interminable off season, and we don't have to be bothered with majors and worlds. We don't even have to watch. There's nothing of interest for us there. So we've got all our time to focus on SSA Rocket League and what we can do, and also into the time of Hopium, because of course it is the general consensus is that there should be a 2/3 rule, at worst a 1/3 rule, and as soon as the split ends, we can get into the time of hoping to see that change, and we wait to see, and hopefully our dreams won't be crushed at the end of it. So there we go. There are many, many reasons. The main one being is despite everything, Rocket League in this region is in a better place than it ever was from 2006-15 when Rocket League launched up to and including 2021 when out of the blue we were yanked into RLCS. It has never been a better time for Rocket League than now, despite our frustrations, despite everything the long list of things we could come up with to complain about.
It was pretty short, but we did kind of stretch it over a couple of episodes.
What?
This is true.
The negatives.
Oh no, no, God damn it! I'm sick to death of my own thoughts about that. So, yeah.
Acceptance. It's part of the the method, the whole process, I suppose.
And
Yeah.
I see Mercury's like Greybeard says 1v1 tournament. I was thinking, at the end of every stream, I mean, there's 3 of us up on this panel. Chat, list your best 3, come and take us on and, talk some shit with us while we do it.
Are you suggesting an actual 1v1 match?
No, not a 1v1, a 3v3.
Oh,
There's 3
okay.
of us.
Okay, we'll
We can do it all proper.
We'll take on Lankai, Daps, and Eli. Why not?
Easy dubs. Easy dubs.
Absolutely dumps right now.
Skill still says
Which
don't
is all
do
reason.
ones. The one scene is oversaturated. Twos
We
is
all
where
just
it
went
is at
super
these
quiet. We all just went super quiet to read that comment from Skillstill.
days. Let's talk about birthdays. Finally, we had a week that had some notable SSA birthdays. So first, on the 8th of May, turning 22 years old was Olympic. Olympic turns 22. So happy birthday to him. And
Is he only 22?
Yeah,
Is Olympic still alive?
Yeah, I mean, fair. I haven't heard him talking smack for a while, so
Yeah, no. He shows up on Twitter
okay?
once in a while. He's now in his posting pics from gym phase.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
And then, for what it's
Instead of-
worth, he was born on the same day as Scrub Killer. Scrub Killer, we hear less from Scrub Killer than we do from Olympics. So he's more alive than Scrub Killer.
Fair enough.
And then on the 8th of May, why are they both on the 8th of May? Is Declan also? Declan, out of Genesix, turned 18. Declan is now a man. Happy birthday, Declan.
No, he was 18. I'm not gonna lie, but okay.
Yeah,
Happy
and then
birthday.
today is the birthday of Tristan. Tristan turns 19 today. So happy birthday, Tristan.
Happy birthday.
He's like 19, but still looks 12. It's kind of insane.
No, yeah, he's definitely a young, looks younger than he is. We have one more regional, as we've mentioned, number 6, open number 6. And for that, we should go here. And sign-ups for that closed today. We had a total of 82 Where's Bromeo? Why has Bromeo disappeared? Hold on one second.
Oh, no, you put me behind Sean. I'm here, but just behind Sean.
Hello. You can see.
I see what's happened. Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, he's there, we promise. Okay, let's do so let me go.
Get in your place, Bromeo, damn it.
I feel like wait. Can you see me? Yeah.
Okay, then. Oh, there he is. There he is. There he is.
I'm alive. Okay, brilliant.
Okay, so 82 teams signed up, and I did a rough count. It seemed roughly half of them are SSA teams. And it's difficult to tell because there is a website, this website that was put together by Splitter, which lists everybody that signed up and where they're from. But the problem is that Reunion Island players are listed as French. You remember from an earlier stream how we struggled to find a Reunion Island flag because they kind of there's no official flag for them. They just use the French flag. And so you'll see a lot of French flags on the team sheets, and there are a lot of French people who've signed up. So it's hard to tell who's Reunion, who's French from that. But despite that, what I've been able to figure out, it's about half are SSA, which is kind of par for the course. Tristan has been. He was on for the last 2 regionals on a 1/3 roster. He's now on a 2/3 roster. He's teamed up with Zyro, and they are being joined by a Portuguese player named Quasar. I don't know who he is or if he's good, bad, or otherwise, but he'll be teaming with Quasar. And so the qualifiers for that are this weekend. Hopefully there's a good SSA turnout at the end of qualifiers. Then there is the 2v2 Cash Cup. I'm trying to find the page for that. I think is it this one? No, it's not. Might be. There we go. The 2v2 Cash Cup. Sign-ups for this close on the 23rd. So that will be not this Friday, the Friday following. And so far, only 22 teams have signed up. So get your duo together, get into the 2v2 Cash Cup. We'll hopefully be doing a lot of, I might be able to get involved in streaming that. So Bromeo, if you're around and want to get involved, do let me know. And then we have the 1v1 RLCS Open. That is on. So the Cash Cup is over 3 days, 27, 28, and 29th of May. And then on 30 is the RLCS 1v1. And for that, 145 people have so far signed up. Sign-ups for that close on Monday the 26th. So 2 weeks today, the sign-ups close. And I guess the bad news there is that Nugget has signed up for that 1v1. So formerly of Young Money Clan. I'm not sure if he's qualified to be because he played in the EU one as well. I'm not sure about the rules, but I did see him on the sign-up. So that's kind of interesting.
I mean, there's a win there. I mean, even if you place 32nd, you get $100. So
yeah, payment $24,000 prize pool paid all the way down to 32. 25 to 32 get $100. 17 to 24 get $250. So that's not too bad. Hey, Mr. JC Hammers here in chat. Hello, mate. Good to see you. And there we go. I think that's all our big news, chaps.
I mean, I think that's a nice amount of news, to be honest.
Yes.
And I'm feeling
a substantial amount of news. Yes.
Yeah, no, and I'm feeling quite a lot better about the region and where we're at, and I'm excited to see more of Yuckles and High School on Supersport. How is this not, breaking news? Any other esport would have been shouting this from the bloody rooftops. And we're like, yeah, that's cool, I guess.
Yeah, isn't it? It's quite
he's on TV, got an own Supersport channel to Rocket League, and
Mm.
that's so incredibly cool. And I really hope we get to do more coverage of that because honestly, it's the future. I mean, Yuckles is like the future graybeard of high schools. You can see it. He's already
Why isn't
building.
RSC on Supersport?
He's already farming
Oh,
that
good
aura.
point.
So RSC on Supersport, that could be fun. Yeah.
That would be a thing. While we've spoken it into the universe, let's see if we can follow
Yeah.
up. So this is where we are. RLCS ends in 2 weeks' time. This time in 2 weeks, RLCS for 2025 will be behind us, and then the rest of 2025, which is June all the way to the end of December, is going to be all about Community Rocket League, RSC, high schools. We got the Comic-Con land coming up. That's where we're going to focus, and that's where we're going to have the time of our lives. So the content for that is going to be huge. And I think that is what is going to breathe life back into Rocket League in the region. And we know, it's amazing how much attention is how much oxygen is sucked up by RLCS when in fact the broader community who play Rocket League and want to follow it want the community stuff. And that's what the second half of 2025 is going to be all about. What this podcast will be about, all the socials will be about, and we will see the birth of new heroes in the SSA region.
Oh man, that's exciting. You said that so well. I'm excited. Like I'm not the one doing it. Like I was like, oh yay, RSC. I get to sign up for that again. It's like I also need to plan the whole thing.
Yes, and as excited as I am about it, I will not be competing. I realized I do not have the appetite for competition. It's horrendous. But I have the appetite and the skill set for bringing the hype, and I will stick to what I'm good at.
I mean, for anybody else, for all of those future franchises, guys, I'm available to draft. I will be your peak mid-level prospect pick for the 4th season in a row.
Do we take diamond threes? I don't think so. It's bad enough. It's bad enough we have your opinions.
Oh, bad enough.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up for the week. Thank you for coming to hang. And so next week we'll bring you the qualifier news to see who's qualified for main event. And the week after that, we will wrap up the entire RLCS season. And then we look forward to a banger closeout for 2025 in the remaining 6 months and all the community stuff. So everybody that's been in chat, thanks for coming to hang as always. And for today and tonight from me, the Bromeo S. Falcon, we are done. Peace!
Goodbye.